Hey everyone, I got a request about how to automate an application called Soundtrack. If you watched my video about automating Spotify and Apple Music from ProPresenter, you'll have some of this knowledge already. This process took a little more work than just swapping names, as it required building entirely new scripts that send requests to the Soundtrack API to make things happen within the application of Soundtrack itself. So please leave a comment to let me know how all this ends up working for you. Subscribe if you like the content or if you got good use out of the knowledge that I'm presenting here. And please consider becoming a patron or buying me a coffee if I helped you out in some way today. So yeah, let's jump in. So Soundtrack is a legal solution to playing streamed music where you might usually use something like Spotify or Apple Music, but you're playing the streamed music to a public audience. Apple Music and Spotify, they frown upon playing the streamed music to a public audience, so Soundtrack is your solution. And I believe Soundtrack is actually owned by the same people that own Spotify. So anyways, let's dive into how to automate this system in conjunction with ProPresenter. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the Soundtrack API page. I'll have this link down in the description, but be aware the link might change. So just Google Soundtrack API and it'll probably get you to the right page. The next thing you will want to do is, assuming you've already created a Soundtrack account, you'll want to have that. But also here you'll want to click on API token. You'll go through and fill out the Google Docs request form and hit submit. I believe it's all pretty straightforward. Fill it out, submit it, and then unfortunately you have to wait for them to get back to you. For me, they sent a one-time use link that took me to a website with a long string of characters that I could copy. It did take maybe a day and a half, maybe 2 days for me to get this link. But anyways, once they send you that link, be aware that it is a one-time use link. So I can't show you that link now. But the code that it has too, you don't really want to share that with other people. But you just copy and paste this long string of characters, paste it into a document that you'll store somewhere else. This is called your API key, and you need it in all of the following scripts that I'm going to talk about. And like I said, it's best not to share this key with anyone. So I'll run some of the scripts, show you how it works, and then I'll also go into the public MIDI pipes and public scripts that don't have my API key, so that you'll be able to kind of see what's going on. So secondly, I'll have a link down in the description to a zip file. Should be entitled Soundtrack MidiPipe package. And what you'll find in that will be a couple of information fetching scripts, some raw scripts if you just wanted to look around within the scripting application, the Apple script application on your Mac. You'll also find the specific scripts in their final forms that I have posted in MidiPipe, as well as your MidiPipe file kind of pre-made with the pre-made templates as well. So all of this should be contained within your Soundtrack MidiPipe package. And honestly, wherever you end up unzipping this to, that might be a good place to store your API key, as well as a few of the other things that we are about to talk about. So make sure you get the zip downloaded. So the third thing you will want to do once you have downloaded the zip file is open up this file right here. So copy your API key that we referenced earlier and paste it here between the quotes where it says your API key here. Click the play button and let the script run. With your API key present, you will receive a pop-up window, and it will display your user ID as well as your sound zone name and ID. Your sound zone is something that you initially set up within soundtrack. It's basically kind of naming the location where you're going to be running the application to play music. This sound zone ID is something that we'll need in all of our scripts as well. So copy your sound zone ID and paste it somewhere safe, just like you did with your API key. You'll need your sound zone ID for all the following reference scripts. So next you'll want to launch the application audio MIDI setup. It is in your applications folder under the utilities folder, or you can just command spacebar audio MIDI setup, and that will pull up the application. If it opens to your audio devices, you can just select Window and click Show MIDI Studio. You'll want to open your IAC driver. You might have other MIDI devices on your system. Go ahead and double click that and open that up. If it's not already clicked, make sure you check this box that says device is online. And then you'll want to go down here and click on the plus button under the list of ports to add a port if you'd like. In this walkthrough, I selected that, got a new port, and named it Soundtrack Control. All right, next let's go ahead and quit out of Audio MIDI Setup. And the next step will be to open MidiPipe. You can open it from the application itself, or it might be easier if from the zip package you download, you just go ahead and open up this file, Soundtrack Controls for MidiPipe. So double click that, it opens up MidiPipe. So within this file for MidiPipe, we have several pipes. We have select song and playlist with fades, fade out and pause, play and fade in. 3 different pipes. Each of these pipes have 2 tools. The MIDI in tool and the AppleScript trigger tool. For each pipe on the MIDI in tool, you will want to make sure that you have the correct port selected of your IAC driver. So in this case, I have port 8 of my IAC driver, which I named Soundtrack Control. This will ensure that the MIDI data will flow correctly from ProPresenter to MidiPipe. Make sure you're doing this in each pipe so that you make sure that the correct MIDI input is selected, the correct driver is feeding notes into MidiPipe. So next, for each of your pipes, we can go into the AppleScript. The first really important thing that you want to do, specifically, you will need to paste in your API key and your sound zone ID. So make sure you're going in and pasting your sound zone ID where it's asking for that, and make sure you do it in between the quotation marks. The same goes for your API key. If you will be utilizing automating playing back specific songs and specific playlists, you'll also need to run this AppleScript from the zip package that's titled Now Playing Information Query. So go ahead and select that. In this script, again, get used to this. Be sure to enter your sound zone ID that we got earlier, as well as your API key right here. Again, remember, these are very important to have. Additionally, very important, prior to running this script, make sure that in Soundtrack, you are playing whatever song it is that you're going to want to trigger. And you want to make sure that you're playing that song within the playlist that you want to trigger. So let's just go ahead and it could say Set a Fire. So we're letting that play, and then we run this script. Now I got a script error because I do not have my sound zone ID or my API key here. But you will receive a pop-up window that has the information laid out for you. The important thing that you need to copy from that will be the playlist ID. You can copy the rest of the information if you'd like, but realistically the playlist ID is the most important part of this process. So next, if we return to MidiPipe and we go to make sure that we're on the select song and playlist with fades pipe and select the Apple trigger, the next thing that we would want to fill out in this script, paste your playlist ID right here between the quotes. So you'll have your sound zone ID, your API key, and now you'll have your playlist ID. Last, in that process, you'll also want to identify and change the song position within that playlist using this integer right here. So, in this particular playlist, if I wanted to play So Will I, well, that's song number 11. So I would just enter in 1-1 here instead of just 1. And the last thing that you can change if you really want to is if you want the song to play right away, you can leave this value here as true. If you want to let the current song finish playing, you can set that to false, but I imagine that most people will just be letting this play automatically. As mentioned, this does have fades, so if music is currently playing, this will fade your song all the way down, pause it, switch songs, start playing the new song, and fade it in to try and keep things from being too jumpy or unprofessional sounding. The last thing that you want to do in each MIDI pipe is make sure that you have the MIDI note value set to what you will have or what you will be using in ProPresenter. So here we have this line, set ProPresenter MIDI note to whatever you need it to be. In this case, the first pipe will be set to note 0, the second pipe will be set to note 1, and the third pipe will be set to note 2. This MIDI note value will be whatever number is in the parentheses when you enter into the edit action menu of ProPresenter for the communication action portion of your macros, or even on the actions, putting actions themselves on the slides. So for example, in ProPresenter, if we go into, you can add actions, communication, the device, and the MIDI note value. In my case, we already have this. We'll go over that in just a minute. If we edit the action and say we want the note value to be, let's say, note value 25 there in the parentheses, we would select that here, close out the menu, and then back in the AppleScript portion of our pipe, we would change this value. Instead of 2, we would change it to 25 to activate this specific pipe. Or if we wanted it to activate, as I was just editing the soundtrack play with fades, I'd want to make sure I go into this pipe, select its AppleScript, and then change the value from 0 to 25. So next, let's jump into ProPresenter itself. If you're not familiar with this process, you will want to go in and add the IAC driver as a communication device. So select ProPresenter up in the toolbar and go to Settings and then Devices. If you need to, select the plus icon and select MIDI to begin setting up a new device. Name your device. You might want to make it something flashy like, I don't know, soundtrack control. Next, in hardware, select Core MIDI Device. Now, I'm running a few versions behind on ProPresenter, so they may have fixed this little bug, but if you don't have anything pop up under Sources and Destinations, click the back button. You may want to click Connect and then Disconnect, but I believe you can probably just click back on Settings, and you'll see now we have all these sources and all of these destinations. What you want to do is under Destinations Only, you want to go down and select the IAC driver port that you made in the Audio MIDI setup application. So make sure you select that. I already have this made, so I'm just going to go ahead, I'll just go ahead and delete this, but you can see that I have soundtrack control. You will need to hit connect as well. So make sure you hit that or you're going to run into issues. Last thing that we're going to do is we're going to set up our macros. So I already have a few macros set up, but I'll take you through this process real quick. Down here, you have lots of different menus, but we want to go into our macros menu, and you can click the add button, and you see that we have a macro. You can name it whatever you will, and then you'll right click on the macro. You'll go to add action, and then you'll go over to communication, and then you'll want to go to whatever device you just created up in the settings communications menu. So in our case, we created soundtrack control, and then you'll want to select MIDI note on. Like I was showing you before, you want to go ahead and select the note value that you want. So in our case, if you're setting up soundtrack play track with fades, you'll want to set that to 0. For soundtrack fade out and pause, you'll want to set that to 1. And then for soundtrack play and fade in, you'll want to set that to 2. So MIDI note values 0, 1, and 2 are what I have in the pre-made templates of MidiPipe. that you'll want to set up in ProPresenter. You shouldn't need to change this. The intensity should be 0, but sometimes I just set it to 127 just to make sure MidiPipe gets the note extra loud. That's a joke. With any luck, you can hit the macro and it will feed the MIDI note to MidiPipe, causing the Apple script to run and execute whatever commands you want in Soundtrack. So let me give you a quick demonstration of that. All right, so you'll see that I have Set a Fire currently playing. In my script right now, I have it set up to jump to So Will I. So whenever we activate this particular macro or activate a slide that this macro is on, we should see the volume fade out, pause, select So Will I, play, and fade back in. So let's go ahead and select that. You probably won't be hearing the song audio right now, just for copyright reasons, but you should be able to see this fade down, switch to where it activates pause, in which case this will switch to a play symbol. Activate the song, switch back to the pause symbol because the song is playing, and fade back in. So let's check it out. So there you go. Here is fade out and pause. So now the song is paused. When we would like it to come back in, say at the end of service, we can select this macro, play and fade in. It will cause the track to play and cause the volume to fade in. So there you have it. That's the automation. Have fun experimenting. If you'd like to have a better understanding of how some of the scripts are automating Soundtrack, I strongly suggest that you check out their API page that I linked below. Give it a read. They fairly adequately discuss their use of GraphQL. I mean, it's pretty in-depth, and if it's over your head, I'm sorry, but I would at least try to be somewhat familiar, at least with the terminology. I primarily use queries and mutations in my Apple scripts, but you may also want to explore their subscriptions function as well. If you want to create some things more in depth or keep tabs on what might be possible as their API expands, they have a Slack team that you can join after you receive your API key. And they also have an Explorer page where you can click on this sidebar for documents. And in this Explorer page, you can do a deeper dive into the information that you need to make scripts work. Because the scripts are dependent on Soundtrack's API, be aware that if something on their end breaks, it could impact the scripts being used. So you want to have an email associated with the API or have notifications turned on in the Slack app so that you will be aware of whether or not something is broken prior to a service time. This is not likely, but it's probably worth mentioning. You may have seen on one of those scripts, to me, it kind of felt like maybe the volume took a little bit to fade down. Well, remember that this is all kind of going through the internet, through all of that networked communication. So sometimes that happens. So it is worth mentioning. Of course, I'm recording this in a closet. It says I have pretty good Wi-Fi, but still, I'm probably not in the best position to be sending out API scripts, and you would probably want to be on a hardwired connection. If you have questions on anything, please leave a comment. If I missed something and the question is common enough, I'll make another video to address any issues you let me know about. So again, thanks so much for checking this all out. Please leave a comment to let me know how it works for you. Subscribe if you'd like, and please consider becoming a patron or buying a coffee for me if this helped you in some way. Like I said as well, links to files should be down in the description. feel free to reach out via email or via comment if you need anything else. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time.